However, we are at resuming debate. Please the débat.
Resuming debate, the Honourable Member for Honoré-Mercier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise today to share my concerns when we talk about accelerating the removal of foreigners. Canada is a land of immigrants. It has been since its foundation. I myself am an immigrant, and I understand the many challenges that newcomers to Canada face when it comes to integrating harmoniously into their new country. For those who arrive as refugees, this is particularly true. They leave their country in distress, and the cultural shock is often huge. This distress is even worse when they come with their children. They have to find housing, find a job, learn a new language, and I could go on. For immigrants and who come here, it's different than for permanent residents, because they're coming because they want to. And often they have the same difficulties, however, as refugees. They have to find housing and get their diplomas to be recognized. They face unemployment, and they have to often live in the poorest neighborhoods. Finding housing for an immigrant is not easy.
With a family, it's even worse. They don't have their relatives, their extended family when they come here, and often children will go to school, and the shock is even worse for these people when there is some criminality, when there's some delinquency among their children. It's a terrible thing for these immigrants to have to leave their adopted country. A lot of these young people arrived here very young. They started school here. We're not talking about a 30-year-old who arrived here with some funny ideas when they landed in Canada. I'm talking about children who came as young children or babies, and they become delinquents here, and they'll have to leave. No, they should be reintegrated into the society here. They should be reintegrated. They are our responsibility as a society because they grew up here, not somewhere else. We're talking about a local problem. Sometimes they really don't have any knowledge at all about their parents' country. We're talking about people who grew up here and went to school here and became delinquents later on. So most immigrants in Canada will respect the law and will never commit any crime of any description. But the Conservatives are concentrating, they should concentrate more on the family reunification here. And I think about my students in disadvantaged neighborhoods. How many of them would not have benefited from having a grandmother? Because very often they go home and there's no mother and father at home because they have to work late. And it would be so nice to find somebody at home when they left. So a harmonious reunification would be so much to the benefit of these people. The Canadian legal system has a good reputation in the world, and it worries me that we're sending out a bad signal in this way, that we actively deport these people without good cause. We cannot change the system in this way and penalize people twofold when these people have made a mistake. I'm not saying that they haven't done something wrong. I'd like to speak now about two families in my riding. And in both cases, these are Canadian children of these people who have been penalized because of the removal of one of their parents for some crime committed at some time in their life. So it's a double penalty. For example, there is a Colombian family that was obliged to take their young Canadian children back to their country, which our country advises people should not travel to. Another cause here to question the relevancy of this bill. Last week, a new case was sent to my office, referred to my office, and again, this concerned Canadian citizen, and in fact, it's an employer who was getting in touch about one of their employees. This employee was being deported back to their country. This person came to Canada very young, at the age of 8. His parents died, and he survived. So there are 6 children now in this family, and almost his entire life as an adolescent and young adult has been passed in Canada. And at the age of 18, he did commit some offenses, and he has done the time. He's paid the price. And this has made him reflect this punishment. And since that time, he's taken the right path. He is redeeming himself. And in fact, he has taken the time to talk about his experience with other young people to help them find the right path. And he's helped many young people in this way. And they would testify to the help that he has provided to them. So, his case with immigration has been dragging on for some time now. He has just lost his Canadian citizenship and is being deported. At the business that he works for, he is the head of a technical team, and he is the best in his category or in his domain. He is a very responsible person, and he knows how to do so many things. He's very respectful of his employer and employees. And his employer said that he is an indispensable member of the team and for the company for which he works. This gentleman will be sent back to his country that he doesn't even know anymore. He's been here for 36 years now. Canada is his country. He has 6 children, 5 of whom are minors. So we are separating him from his children. We're going to separate him from his wife. We're going to separate this man from his country. We are saying that immigrants are second-class citizens in this country. And this case really clearly illustrates what we need to be careful about when we talk about C-43. And we give the minister the responsibility for deciding about humanitarian cases. The minister will decide what is relevant here and decide who is eligible or admissible or not, and what are cases of that might involve organized crime. Now, the minister in the case that I mentioned could have provided an exemption for the person for humanitarian reasons, but the new law would exempt the minister of this responsibility. 1 minute left? Okay, thank you. So, why does the government really want to relieve the minister of the responsibility of improving children's lives? Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments? Question, commentaire? The honourable member for Davenport.
To thank my colleague for her speech and for the wisdom that she brings to this issue and to this House. And you know, these issues are very complex. These issues are never black and white. And we have countless cases that come through all of our offices, and certainly some of theirs as well, I'm sure, where flexibility and an understanding of the details of these cases is very important. And I just wondering if my honourable colleague could speak a bit more about the need for a system that can respond to the individual cases of you know, sometimes extreme human tragedy, and how we need to be very clear and very flexible about some of this stuff.
The honourable member for Honoré-Mercier. I think that what we want to see with legislation is when we punish someone for having committed an offense, it's not to punish them for the rest of their lives. I know that Canada is a country of immigrants. So if we look at the cases of the citizens that I mentioned earlier, someone who has lived with a great deal of suffering, that's one thing. This person has paid the price, but they have to be reintegrated into society. When we manage to do so, when we bring that person back, even for believers, that's important. People have the right to a new beginning. Isn't that what we believe? When we talk about these cases, in this kind of case, we're just saying, get lost, go away. We only want perfect immigrants in this country. And then at that point in time, we're going to define which are the good ones and which are the bad ones. So that's my answer.
We have time just for one more short question and response. The
honourable member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I understand very well what the member is saying, and it is that when we're Canadian and we go to another country, I remain to be a Canadian. That's my country of origin. And I have to have the same rights as any other person who's a Canadian. When you've spent 36 years in a country, we are Canadians. Our children who were born here are Canadians, and they have the right to the same rights as any other Canadian. The honourable member for Honoré-Mercier. And I will add, when people came here, it is the responsibility of the people here. We can't deport people who became criminals here. It's the responsibility of Canadian society. If the family can't see, for example, if some person has developed a mental illness as an adolescent, it's our responsibility as a society. They were born here, they grew up here. We need to reintegrate them in the proper way.